Gun Owners of America's Sam Paredes on the ATF changing course over what permits qualify for bypassing gun sales background checks. That and more on this episode of the Weekly Reload Podcast.
No, the devil's got no hold on me.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Weekly Reload Podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Gutowski. I'm a CNN contributor and founder of thereload.com, where you can head over today if you want to sign up for our free weekly newsletter to keep up to date with what's going on with guns in America from a sober, serious perspective that focuses on hard news and analysis. This week, we are talking about a new ATF reform that was driven in part by a big, long-lasting, years-long legal fight with the group that we're actually going to be talking to one of the representatives today, the Gun Owners of America and the Gun Owners Foundation. We have a board member of both of those groups with us, Sam Paredes, who is also the executive director of Gun Owners of California. Welcome back to the show, Sam.
Stephen, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be with you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. Can you tell people just a little bit more about yourself and GOA as well before we get started here?
Sure. Gun Owners of America and Gun Owners of California, we are actually the oldest pro-gun political action committee in the country. In 1975, when the Political Action Committee guidelines and statutes were passed in Congress in California, our founder and chairman, Senator H.L. Richardson, who was a member of the board of directors of NRA, went to them and said, hey, I want to start one of these new political action committees to fight back because in California, they're trying to ban handguns. And they said, sure, go right ahead. So Gun Owners of California started, and within a year, Gun Owners of America grew. We knew we needed a national presence on this. We focused on lobbying. We focused on elections. And now, more than ever, we're focusing on litigation. But we've been doing this fight. I've been involved since 1980, so I've been doing it for a long time. But all of those years of travailing in the trenches, in the mud, are starting to pay off. And now more than ever, we have to work harder than we ever have in order to keep the ball moving forward in the restoration of our Second Amendment rights. So I live in California. I grew up in East LA. I live up in the foothills here, mountain foothills, where it's absolutely beautiful. And people who would come and be with us would say, well, I understand why some people don't leave California, but yes. We love it here. We love the fight. People need to understand that what happens in California, it's like an infection, and we're trying to prevent it from spreading to other states. But we also work nationally, because everything that happens on a national basis affects California, and ultimately we will win. That's the down and dirty.
All right. Well, and this week we are going to be focusing on that litigation side of what you guys do, because it seems, at least, that you've had some success here with this ATF policy regarding what are called Brady Permits. And the ATF reversed course on how it interprets what qualifies as a so-called Brady Permit. And that seems to have occurred because of a legal case that you guys had been fighting with the ATF for the last 5 years, both in Michigan and in Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm. So
just to start off here, let's go over what a Brady Permit is, because I don't think a lot of people know what this concept means, because lots of people know what a gun carry permit is, and or a permit to purchase a gun. Some states have that requirement, but most people, I don't think, understand what, or maybe have never heard of a Brady permit, and they might even have one that qualifies as a Brady permit and not necessarily know. So can you just give us a background on what is a Brady permit? What are we even talking about here?
Under the Brady Act, the Brady alternative to background checks, everybody who purchases a firearm firearms, ammunition, and concealed carry weapon permits are the only things that the NICS system is supposed to do background checks on. And so when you buy a gun, the background check is done. The states can ping the NICS system on some ammunition issues, and to get a CCW, you have to go through the NICS. So you get the background check of background checks when the feds approve. Now, the FBI maintains the database. The ATF is the one who kind of administers things and sets the policies. And so the Brady alternative said that if you have a concealed carry weapons permit, you are not required to go through another background check when you buy a gun. First of all, it is assumed that you have already purchased a gun and that you have already gone through the background check. But the fact that you've gone through a CCW NICS check is something that is constantly reviewed. If there's an issue and you become prohibited, it's easy for the federal government to contact the state and say, hey, this person is now prohibited. They need to be dealt with. So it was a streamlining of the process that made sense. If you have a gun, you have a CCW, you are already constantly monitored as to your legal status. So that's what the Brady alternative did for CCW holders across the country. Now,
right.
5 years ago, we had to file a lawsuit in Michigan and Alabama because a gentleman named Donald Roberts went to the gun store and tried to buy a gun and showed his CCW, and the gun store would not accept it. They wanted him to go through the background check. That doesn't mean he doesn't fill out the registration forms, 4473s and stuff. It's the background check that was not required. And so he was not allowed to buy the gun without that. So we filed a lawsuit in support of his challenges against the system.
Okay. So essentially a Brady permit is any kind of permit that allows you to forego the background check when you go to purchase a firearm. And just to give a little bit of clarification, I guess, from the ATF's website, here are the 3 requirements for a permit that's issued like a state gun carry permit or concealed carry permit. For it to qualify as a Brady permit, they say on their website, 1, the permit must allow the non-licensee, which is just, the person who's not the gun dealer, to possess or acquire a firearm. 2, the permit must have been issued not more than 5 years earlier by the state in which the transfer is to take place. And 3, state law must provide that the permit was to be issued only after an authorized government official verified that the information available to such official does not indicate that it would be a violation of the law for the non-licensee to possess a firearm. Basically, the third point is just that the concealed carry permit you get has to check and see if you're a prohibited person or not before you're issued the permit. So, those are pretty straightforward requirements, at least according to the ATF's website. And they certainly sound like requirements that would make every gun carry permit a Brady permit, or at least they ought to. And so it sounds here, but obviously, if you look at the chart the ATF puts out, even now, even after they've added a number of states, thanks to, I think, in large part the lawsuit that you guys filed, it's still not all 50 states. It's still not all every gun carry permit on there and it's not clear to me why that is. But anyway, so let's go through 5 years ago, under the first Trump administration, I guess at the time, you guys filed this suit in Michigan. What has been the legal argument on the other side, or what are the 2 arguments here? What are you guys arguing in this case, and then what was the ATF responding with?
Well, the ATF, after they changed their position with regards to the Brady permits, argued to me nonsensically that everybody has to constantly be background checked, and that some states don't have sufficient check systems and all kinds of gobbledygook. And basically, it was a part of the ATF's overall anti-Second Amendment position, making it more difficult in every way possible for people to be able to avail themselves of firearms. It boils down to that. We in our lawsuit, we quoted the law. We quoted the statutes. We quoted, what the process was and how it was working and why it should be the law of the land. And ultimately, we were victorious on these issues in Michigan and Alabama. So they were the first two states to allow for the Brady permit to be their background check. Now, today we got an announcement. GOA just announced that other states, including Alabama, Indiana, Michigan, Missouri, Puerto Rico, and Wisconsin, have been added to the list of people of states where people, if they show their CCW, their Brady permit, will be able to circumvent the additional background check. Now, mind you, people need to understand that when you do a CCW, this is a live database. They constantly check to see if anybody on the database has committed a crime or some violation of the law and has become disqualified. And they don't just sit there with that information. They communicate it to the states. So this is a very real and live thing that is going on. I don't particularly think it's constitutional, but it is what it is. And so we said, hey, listen, this is the law. You guys changed it on a whim. It's time to change it back. Now, Stephen, as you pointed out, this should be the law of the land in all 50 states, but it's not. Therefore, our legal challenges are going to continue as we spread to get this the provisions applicable in all 50 states. Now, as you can imagine, you have 50 states. It's like herding cats. Every one of them has different laws and different requirements for concealed carry weapons permits and different background checks. Here in California, you get the super duper extra special rectal examination background check within the state, as well as the NICS check, before you're allowed to get a concealed carry weapons permit. And some states have additional and different requirements. They have statutes that overlap the laws, and even if the federal law is clarified, there's still many steps that we have to go through in order to break that dam open and make this applicable to all 50 states. And in many cases, it's a state-by-state basis.
So do you know how many states now have at least one Brady permit qualifying? Last I looked, when I wrote about this earlier in the week, I think it was about 30 states. So is that number grown, you're saying?
No, I believe you're correct. I think it's about 30 states. Okay. But
it wasn't just, I guess, initially it seemed like it was just Michigan and Alabama that had been added, but it seems like it was more than just those two states. It was these 5 or 6 other states as well. That's
correct. And as more and more states realize that ATF has changed their position on this issue, more and more of them are working through the process of making it happen in their states. We have a lot of great states who are super pro-gun, and they have things that they have to go through, procedures they have to go through, legislative procedures in order to make these things happen. So I wish we could just go like that and it was done, which is the way it should be, but it's not. So until it is that way, we're going to keep fighting in every state that we can to make sure that the Brady check qualifies. If we get that done in California, the rest of the other states will fall in line. So we're actively working to make that happen.
Okay, and so it sounds like in this Michigan suit, for instance, that you guys were arguing that Michigan's law and the way that it processes its permits already meets the standards under federal law for it to be a Brady permit, because I guess, can you get a little more into detail about exactly it's what the hang up is here. Like, it sounds like ATF or the DOJ was arguing that, some states don't recheck their permit holders frequently enough for them to be comfortable with, or for them to qualify under the Brady Act. Is that more or less the hang up? Or
that is part of the hang up, and that's why some of these things need to be addressed legislatively in each of the states. The guidelines put out by the ATF say that the permits cannot last for more than, what did it say, 5 years, as you read
5
it?
years. Is that another part of it?
And
That basically, if some of these states issue permits that last longer than 5 years, they won't qualify.
And there are a lot of constitutional carry states that issue permits so that their residents who don't require a permit in their own state will have the ability, either for reciprocity in states that accept the permits from those particular states, and some of them, I think, will qualify them for the Brady permit. But you're correct. Some of them issue permits, like here in California, they're only valid for 2 years. In California, they are constantly checking and updating the CCW list to find disqualified people. But that's not the case in a lot of other states. So, like I said, it's kind of a mishmash. Some states don't require a renewal of the permit, and that has to be addressed, because there has to be a renewability so that the ATF understands that a background check on a state basis is being conducted, because the NICS system checks federal violations and violations in other states, and doesn't do the deep dive necessarily into violations of state law, which could be disqualifying. So,
because that's an issue that comes up.
And it's wide. Say again.
I think that's an issue that also comes up in some reciprocity arguments, right? Like, this is one of the reasons that you'll sometimes hear blue states not wanting to give reciprocity to other states, or more states with more restrictive gun carry laws not wanting to give reciprocity. Other states, I think, for instance, Virginia and Pennsylvania stopped recognizing the Virginia permit, and one of the reasons was this idea that the Virginia state criminal record system isn't queryable 24 hours a day or something. This was one of the reasons. Obviously, as you mentioned, 50 different states, 50 different policies on how law enforcement record keeping works and things of that nature. And so, it sounds like that's one of the, I guess, disputes here. But in GOA's from GOA's position, from GOA's point of view, all 50 concealed carry permits that exist now ought to qualify as Brady permits, or do you see any?
That is our position, that the Brady alternative should include all CCW holders nationwide, period. That's the way it should be if you follow the law. We don't particularly like the law, but that is what the law is. And if it's there, you better follow it, or we're going to come and challenge you on that. You're absolutely correct about reciprocity. Reciprocity has become almost a political football. One state gets mad at another state for whatever reason, and they take away reciprocity, or they change their rules. And what business does one state have to say that another state doesn't do a good enough job to do background checks and stuff? That's really none of their businesses. Now, we believe that a CCW permit should be treated like a driver's license. It is, after all, a constitutional right, not a privilege that you're granted by a driver's license. But driver's licenses are approved and accepted in all 50 states and all territories of the United States. CCWs should be treated exactly the same way. And we're fighting very hard to make that happen. So people need to understand that the wish and the desire is to get all 50 states included in this thing, and we are fighting through the political mire in order to achieve that goal. But it is a full-time job to fight for this, and an expensive job, because when you file lawsuits and it costs a lot of money to do that. So we try to pick and choose in priority the states where we would have the most impact, that would open up the dam for additional states if we're successful in one particular state. So it's a dynamic situation that takes a lot of wisdom and a lot of research, and a lot of good consultation with our pro-constitutional attorneys.
Hmm. And yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at the actual Brady Act language right now, and it's literally just exactly the same as what the ATF posts on their website. And so all it really requires is that that somebody's permit allows them to possess firearms, that it's not older than 5 years, or it wasn't issued more than 5 years ago, and that it's only issued after a authorized government official verified that the applicant wasn't a prohibited person. So, I mean, it sounds like, I guess, the ATF is interpreting on top of that extra requirements, because, it's hard to imagine that any concealed carry permit in the country wouldn't already meet those 3 requirements, other than, I guess, as you mentioned, some do last longer than 5 years. But that's interesting. But so I guess you got the ATF to change course, at least partially, on this. They haven't, and if you go and look at their website now, they have a whole chart where they outline, and this also, as the text reveals, it's not just concealed carry permits. Obviously, that's what we're talking about, because it's the most common kind of permit most gun owners would have that would qualify under this. But you can also have like state, permit to purchase. Some states require a permit to purchase, and that can, it seems, would qualify as a Brady permit as well. Or, FOID cards might be another one in a few states that would potentially qualify as Brady alternatives too. So, but if you look through, like none of California's different firearms licenses, whether it's carry or entertainment firearms permit, for instance, is another one that California has. None of them qualify. None in Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware. There's still a lot of states. DC, like my DC carry permit, does not qualify as a Brady permit for whatever reason. I mean, they do give some reasons here. Like, for instance, and I guess this can be part of the hang up, right? Is that, we'll just use DC as an example. The ATF writes, the prohibited person disqualifiers for the issuance of this permit do not include all federal prohibitors. DC prohibitors do not include the federal firearm prohibitor for persons adjudicated as mentally defectives or those convicted of a qualifying misdemeanor crime of domestic violence. They're claiming that you can get a DC concealed carry permit without, if you have a domestic violence misdemeanor conviction or you've been adjudicated mentally defective. I find that highly questionable, but they're giving some of these reasons, and I guess some of them deal with state laws not completely mirroring federal prohibited persons lists. Is that an issue you guys are working on, or?
Absolutely, it is. Basically, the ATF's change in position has opened the door for us to go. It's now our job to go and challenge all of the states that are not complying with the policy of the ATF with regarding the Brady alternative, the Brady permits. It's our job to go and force these other states to change their positions, challenge the fact that they have everything in place, they qualify, and they're not complying with it, which is a violation that we believe of federal statutes and regulations. And so it's our job now to go and challenge those things. But the ATF, Stephen, this was huge that they changed this position. Like I said, it pretty much opened the dam doors, and the water is starting to flow out in a trickle, and it's going to come in a torrent and break the rest of the dam down. If we do our job, we're not going to stand here and not take advantage of the new position from the ATF. We're going to go ahead and challenge more and more states for not complying with this. And yes, it is a matrix. It is a whirlpool of various laws and perspectives from the states. Some of the states are just fighting it, kicking and screaming, and don't want to do it. And that's when we will challenge them in court and force them to comply with the law. It's pretty much that simple. It is now a political as well as judicial fight that we have to be engaged in order to restore Brady permits or the Brady alternative for background checks nationwide. It is not an easy job, man, but we're taking advantage of the progress that we have made. We went with 2 states. Now we have, 5 other states, and we're going to keep adding to that list as much as possible. It's not going to happen overnight because some of the resolutions are going to have to require a legislative change in the particular states in order to avoid a lawsuit. And not all legislatures are in session all year long like they are here in California. All year long they're in session. They can deal with these issues all year long. Many states have legislature that meet in session only 2 months, 1 year, and 1 month the next year. And so we have to we'll file lawsuits and put them in a position to where they're going to have to address these issues when their legislative sessions do come into effect. And that's the job that we have to do. We would, like I said, I wish we could snap our fingers and make it happen, but it takes a lot more work than just saying, hey, ATF has changed. Everybody come on with us, comply. So
right. Yeah. And I guess, for instance, California, what ATF gives is the reason that they don't recognize the concealed carry license as a Brady permit is just that California state law requires a background check regardless of whether you have on firearms transfers, regardless of whether you have a concealed carry license. And the ATF is claiming here that you have to follow the stricter of the 2 standards. So that's interesting.
Stephen, we need to let people know that, the NICS background check system was supposed to be a system that all 50 states could use. It's supposed to check all of the prohibitors and be able to report to the states almost immediately. In most cases, within a couple of minutes, the background check is conducted and they pass the NICS system. There's a compact for that. There are several states like California and a handful of other states that do not want to be a part of that system. So they want to conduct their own background check. And then they are permitted to access the NICS system for additional information before, they will issue a permit. And that creates a problem because it's not the same playing field for all 50 states. So the states themselves, whether they choose to work with the Brady NICS system or if they choose to have their own special system, it creates complications.
Yeah. And following up on this here, has ATF communicated to you guys exactly why they changed their mind? Because it seems like looking through their public statements on this and looking at, for instance, the website where they detail these Brady permits, they don't say why they changed the position on Michigan in particular, right? Where you had the lawsuit. It just says that their purchase, carry, possess, or transport license and license to conceal carry are both now Brady permits. They don't give an explanation one way or the other. Their press release on this just said that they issued an updated guidance on FFL obligations under the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. So they don't, and then the court filings imply that the change is based off of the fact that President Trump has ordered a review of various executive branch firearms policy positions, And obviously the change to the policy came after that, these filings that they had in your case. But they don't, has there been any actual explanation of why the ATF's reasoning has changed here? Have they said anything? I can't find anything.
So let me explain the dynamic here. When President Trump issued his executive order on the preservation of the Second Amendment, it changed everything. There were concerns about Attorney General Pam Bondi being pro-gun enough, but she is a loyal follower of the president and has implemented his desires in a very big way. We have very few complaints about anything that the Department of Justice, the ATF, and the FBI have been doing to help uncover things that have been going on that should not be going on. Rulings, or rules from the ATF are all being reviewed. They told us that they were going to review all of the legal cases and see if they needed to change their position. Gun Owners of America has submitted a list of issues that we hope the DOJ and the ATF and the FBI will review. It appears that they are addressing some of the issues, and we hope that more issues will be addressed. It's a situation where we're not getting, a press release from the DOJ saying we did this to restore gun rights. We are just happy that we're getting the restoration, and it's the old, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. We wish they would say some things in order to put all of the other states on notice, but they've just been doing the work. And they've been responding to the requests that we've made. They've stuck to the commitments that they've made in reviewing all of the legal cases that they are involved in. They have put holds and asked appellate courts and SCOTUS to hold off on reviewing particular cases because they are reevaluating the federal position on the particular issues that are being challenged in the courts. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And there are some cases where we don't want the federal government to come into because we have cases in good courts. We're going to get great rulings, final results that will have impacts nationwide and will prevent future administrations from being able to change the law of the land. But there are many, many cases where ATF changing their position will help us, overcome a lot of the anti-gun things that are on the books, whether they're rules, whether they're statutes, and perspectives. So it is, again, a very complicated issue. We are happy that the administration has a very clear focus on the Second Amendment. The Civil Rights Division with Harmeet Dillon putting the country on notice that they are going to investigate violations of civil rights, in particular with regards to the Second Amendment in counties across the country. They've already announced that they are challenging in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Deputies Department because it takes 2 years to get a permit and it costs thousands of dollars. They're looking at other counties in the state of California, and that's going to translate across the country. The focus on the restoration of the Second Amendment by the administration is very good to see.
Right. So you're happy with what the ATF has done here, but they haven't actually explained the logic behind why they changed their minds. It does appear to be due to this review, because they put that in several filings in the case that they're reviewing this and that, they may change their mind. And then now they have changed their mind, but as far as we know, publicly, we don't have a articulation of why they changed their mind. I guess.
So yeah, Stephen, we're happy with what they've done by and large right now. There is so much more to do, and let me tell you, we are not apologists for the ATF and for DOJ and the administration. We are still working every way we can to challenge rules that are still on the books that they have not addressed. It is not slowing down our approach and our fight in the courts and in legislatures and in the Congress, especially right now with suppressors and SBRs and SBSs and reciprocity. We're not we're not laying down and saying, hey, we've got friends and there's nothing for us to do. Let them do their job. No, we are there to encourage them, to recommend, to suggest, and sometimes to challenge them in courts if they, don't act quickly enough in order to kind of light a fire under them and make them pay attention. So this is not a, let's sing Kumbaya around the campfire situation. It's still a major fight, and we're trying to get them to focus.
Okay. But for now, with this case, at least, it seems like there's no need for the case to move forward, right? Because the ATF has done what you wanted it, at least in Michigan and Alabama. Now, you're saying you may file new suits down the line, potentially, depending on the circumstances in each of these remaining, I guess, about 20 states that still don't have, where their permits don't qualify as Brady alternatives. But you are happy with the direction things are headed.
Yes, we are happy with the direction. And we are going to continue to pursue every opportunity that we have to spread, the Brady permit issue to all 50 states. We're not going to stop. There's no compromise. There's nothing that we're going to give up. There's nothing we're willing to trade in order to make this happen. Again, we've been given an opportunity, and now it's our job to take advantage of that opportunity to further freedom and liberty across the country.
All right. Well, look, I appreciate you coming on to explain this issue. I think it doesn't. It's something that is kind of almost an undercover thing. People don't really understand that in most states you can use your concealed carry permit as a bypass for the NICS check that you do when buying guns, because, as you mentioned earlier, you already go through that process when you get the concealed carry permit to begin with. But yeah, and that is a significant development to see what's now, I think, was about 6 or 7 states added to this list of Brady permit states. So. Appreciate you coming on and explaining the details of this to us and discussing, your legal strategy over there at GOA for this issue. And we'll have to have you on again, perhaps when maybe the next one of these cases gets filed or there's more movement on this. But in the meantime, can you tell people who want to keep up with you and GOA where they can do that?
Sure. First of all, Stephen, thank you for bringing this issue up. It is very complicated. It's nuanced. It's a big deal, and not a whole lot of people are talking about it. But people need to understand, at least get a little more understanding of how the system works and what it is that we're trying to do. So, if you want to be a part of the fight, we'd like to invite you to join Gun Owners of America. You can go to gunowners.org. Become a member. You'll get newsletters and updates as to what's happening on a regular basis. We don't crush you with needless stuff. We give you the information you need to be able to know how to fight and when to fight and who to fight. So we invite people from all over the country. And remember that what happens in California either affects or infects the rest of the country. So we're fighting hard here at Gun Owners of California, gunownersca.com. If you live in another state and you want to fight in the belly of the beast where a lot of this gobbledygook is happening, we invite you to support Gun Owners of California as we work diligently in the most difficult of all states to restore the Second Amendment. And Stephen, I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about these issues, and look forward to doing it again because there's a lot more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's all we've got for you guys this week. We will see you again real soon.